Hi, welcome back to the build. It's been a bit of a while since I put something out before, but I've now finished the wings. I'll show you those. They're actually now sort of safely up in the roof of the garage, and I'm now moving on to the fuselage. So with the fuselage, I think we'll start to see quite a lot of progression fairly quickly, but let's have a look at what I've done, and don't forget to comment if it looks like I've done anything wrong. Okay, so here are the two completed wings. So there's the port wing there and the starboard wing there. I've attached the flaperons because I wanted to check that I just got full movement, which is adequate movement in those, and they don't catch, which is really good. The only thing I really need to do on the wings now is the wing tips. Once the wing tips are on, which I need to order from SparCheck, I'll then cover them in a thin layer of probably 50 grams of fiberglass. So the next project is moving on to the fuselage. What I've actually done here is I've been to B&Q this morning. I bought myself 2 pieces of OSB board, which is basically flooring, just to extend the table a little bit. As you can see, it's kind of hanging off the end here and on the other end about here as well. So there's about 8 inches on each side. Now onto the OSB, I've actually screwed that onto the worktop. I've overlaid the full size plan of the fuselage side, which Igor sent to me. I've then covered it in sort of like some plastic sheet just to protect it, which kind of reminds us of me aero modelling days when I was about 12. And then what I've actually done is I've made a number of these little brackets, just made out of aluminium sort of 90-degree section, screw them on, and then I'm going to start overlaying the spruce itself. So as you can see, I think it's going to be fairly easy. The hardest thing is going to be to make sure I do all my cuts accurately, but yeah, I'll check back once I've got a bit more progress. There's a lot more of these brackets to screw onto the board. Basically I'm going to put one sort of on every sort of, what do you call them, where you've got like a 15 by 15 piece of spruce. But yeah, I think what I'll also do is every time I cut a piece of spruce, so for example down here I've got these vertical pieces here, I'll cut 2 at a time, and then what it means is that I can pull this completed section off, put some new longerons on, put in the new pieces I've cut, and I'll have 2 exact sizes, or 2 exact sides that will be very similar to each other. But it'll also save a lot of time as well, because I can use the piece I've previously cut as a template as well. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad I got up at 6:30 this morning to be B&Q's first customer. But yeah, let's see how I get on. So here we have a little bit of progress. I think I've already mentioned I've put the longerons in, and I've started cutting these. So as you can see, they need to be kind of held in place. The longerons actually need a bit of a trim, but yeah, I'm quite happy with the angles and stuff, and the fit so far. Just taking my time doing one at a time, and then what I'll do, when I've cut them all to size, I'll take them out, I'll make a copy of each one for the other side. So this is going to be the right hand side of the fuselage, and then I'll do the left hand side next. But yeah, it's coming along quite well. Like I'm saying, I'm happy with the progress so far. Yeah, see how we get on. So here's a quick update. I've actually finished, well, when I say finished, I have missed one little piece out of there which I've got, which I'm going to glue in retrospectively, but I finished the first fuselage side. It was actually relatively straightforward to do. Cutting the vertical and the sort of diagonal bits were easy. It was easy gluing everything in place. The one thing I found really hard was actually making all of these little triangles. It was very, very repetitive, but everything else was kind of fine. The other thing as well is I've got the fuselage tunnel section, which kind of fits in here. So just to show you, ago, I've kind of verified that it does fit quite nicely. So now it's a case of moving on to the other side and making the second side. Once the second side's made, what I'll then do is along the top here, there are some supports that go in, which I'll just show you from the plans, which go along here. And what you need to do is actually bend the fuselage side before you stick those on, just to kind of aid with the shape of the fuselage. So yeah, we'll just see how I get on with the next side. Cutting loads of those little triangle support sections out again, but luckily I have managed to cut all the fuselage sides, which I've got down here. What I actually did is when I cut the first ones here, I used those as a template to then draw against the next and then measure them up as a dry fit. It was much quicker doing it that way. So yeah, so I'm going to crack on with the second side. I've got a kind of bit of sanding to do as well, with little bits of glue that's kind of came out. But yeah, let's see how it goes. So the next stage of the build is I've actually bent the fuselage on the work surface, and what I've actually done is made sure it's measured at the correct amounts here and here, and I've then actually applied the reinforcing strips that go along the top to help it stay bent. So it's glued. I'll leave it for probably 24 hours till tomorrow night when I come back from work and see how it's got on. So here's the finished item. You can't really see the curve very well in this, but it does definitely curve around, and you can see where there's kind of here is the normal longeron. There's one piece of additional reinforcement, and then there's another one there as well. So it's actually quite wide where the cockpit area is, and then, like I said, it bends off to the side. On the camera it doesn't look very bent at all, but I think that's just the lens. So I need to do the other side, and then it's time to put the fuselage sides together, which I think will be in a separate video. So thanks again for watching. Please subscribe and ask any questions in the comments. So here's a quick update on how I do my scarf joints. So what I've actually got is my 1mm ply on the edge. I've actually got an aluminium sort of L section. I've measured the required distance from here to here, and on the workbench basically I've just got a sort of like a hinged bar, which worked out as the correct height from there to give me a 15:1 scarf. What I then have is a nice solid bar, which I've glued some, or double-sided some sandpaper to, and all I do, I mean it's a bit long-winded, I'm just sanding like this until I get the required scarf all the way along. Then I've got to do it loads more times. I know in the manual it says you can actually use sort of like a belt sander and things, but I'd rather just do it this time, take my time, get it correct, and not have to spend sort of £40–50 on a new sheet of plywood. So anyway, that's how I do scarfing. You can see I've also weighed it down as well. I find sort of dumbbells, so the ones that you can put different weights on, they're really good throughout the build.